right? Optimists, just by virtue of what I said, don't look at the world from a realistic perspective. They have to kind of sugarcoat things a little bit, right? Because that's not the real world, which sounds negative, but if you look at the kind of life expectancy, the happiness, the joy that optimists experience, statistics show that those people, live better lives. Just being thankful, I think, does a lot of things. And as I mentioned Tuesday, Tuesday,
Yes.
talk about our triumphs and our victories, kind of in that thankful vein as well. So kind of putting those two together. The one thing I found interesting, and a couple of us know Dr. Hall, he tells a story about asking an audience who's a pessimist, right? And some people truthfully kind of raise their hand. Yeah, if I had to say, I'm probably a pessimist. And then he asks, who's a realist? If it's a bigger section of the group raise their hand. And then he asks, who's an optimist? There's a small section of people. And then he says, well, if you want to be honest, realists are pessimists. Real life is inherently a little negative, right? There's just life. Generally speaking, there's more things going in kind of a negative direction than there are things going in a positive direction. You have to put effort into the positive direction. So, his take was just acknowledge the fact, if you think you're a realist, you're probably a pessimist, because that's life. And the other is, optimists tend to have rose-colored glasses, right? Optimists, just by virtue of what I said, don't look at the world from a realistic perspective. They have to kind of sugarcoat things a little bit, right? Because that's not the real world, which sounds negative, but if you look at the kind of life expectancy, the happiness, the joy that optimists experience, statistics show that those people, live better lives. So even if you're kind of lying to yourself a little bit, there's a benefit to being an optimist. So I wanted to kind of set the stage there, and then talk about reasons why you would then be more thankful, or have gratitude towards the things in your life. Anybody kind of notice the shift in their life going from pessimist to realist to optimist?
I don't know. Can you be an optimist with a realist attitude, or a realist with an optimist attitude? I guess is what I'm looking for.
Well, I think it's a spectrum, right? If you're a realist, but you have a slight bent towards optimism, that can kind of exist.
Because I mean, it's like you say, Jared. I mean, realist is you are kind of living in the real world, where you see what goes on every day, but as an optimist, you find the good within that negativity that's happening around you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Somebody that's taught me some real helpful things about being an optimist is my girlfriend, Leisha. She has this unique ability that I haven't seen in many humans, to just enjoy everything. She looks forward to going and doing things. She really loves doing it, and then she loves who she's doing it with, and then she tells you how grateful she is. So at a level that I've never kind of experienced before, but it's infectious. I really appreciate her attitude about life. What I'm saying is, the further on that spectrum you go towards the optimist, I think the better your life is, even if you're a little fluffy about it.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree.
Anyway, I'm not suggesting we all be detached from reality, but I'm saying, what's in your mind, you know, becomes your perspective, can become your reality, right? She has more joy in any one experience by virtue of looking forward to it and being appreciative for it than the average person. So it made the exact same experience better.
Yeah,
So
I think what we're talking about is a measure of hope,
yeah,
right? I mean, we can look at our circumstances, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on every day that we could choose to see, obviously, as affecting us. It's pulling on us. It's taking our energy. It's consuming our physical and emotional energy, our intellectual energy, and yet, I think that optimism is, although it seems kind of dreamy, it's what we call hope,
yeah,
and it's got to be a core value, a core part of it.
yep,
Well, even on her side, you take a look at it, and it's more or less like living in the moment. I mean, that's really all that we actually have. And no matter what happens within that moment, there is a sense of gratitude, anyways, because I mean, anything that happens, there's always a lesson out of it. There's always something that we can get out of it. There's always a difference in our own lives that we can take a look at. So if we can take each moment and be grateful for whatever that moment is bringing us, I think that's in itself a positive.
yeah. Yeah, well, you're moving on to another section of the topic that I find interesting, and that is um, being thankful is an emotion, right? Being grateful is an action. So I'm a big proponent of understanding how the mind works, because once I understand how it works, I can control it and I can elevate it. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
until you understand why you think the way you think and why you do the things you do, um, you, you just kind of bounce around in life. At least that's been my personal experience. So for me to understand that a thought becomes an emotion and an emotion becomes an action. And by the way, the stronger the emotion, the higher degree of likely, the stronger the action. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
that's how we kind of live: thought, emotion, action, everything that we do. So if you have the thought of being thankful, um, you know, translating to that emotion, and then gratitude comes out of that. There's an action, there's a behavior of gratitude. So I think that's positive, kind of however you slice it, right?
I agree.
I think you have to really be clear on what you want and what makes you happy, or just like you said, Jared, you're gonna be bouncing around, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna really have a direction, right?
Yeah.
I heard a quote yesterday that is really just gonna stick with me for a long time, I'm sure. And it's, if you don't have that plan, you don't have that clear direction, you can grind all day, but without that clear plan, if you just grind, you're going to become dust.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter what you do. If you want to be happy, you have to find out what internally really that is.
Yeah. Yeah. And happiness is an interesting one, because I think there's a lot that society preaches, teaches, promotes about happiness, which is all well and good. Um, but I'd be a little cautious of that one, and I'll talk about that in future conversations. Um, but there's five things I looked up just real quick about what falls out of, good things that falls out of being thankful. One is that it makes you make others feel good. You know, if if you're thankful and then you're showing gratitude, like people feel better. You know what I mean? You know the person that's a soul suck when you go into a room and they're like, they're just kind of, Debbie Downer or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm going to move over here. you know.
I
So,
think, Jared, that grateful is the emotion, and And then the gratitude is the action, right?
Oh,
If we're thinking about,
yeah, I
You
don't
just went
know.
mute.
Yeah, I think we lost you there, Charlie. But yeah, I mean, in my mind, it's thankfulness is a thought. You're thankful for this. I don't know. I mean, I could look at it either way, and we'll delve into that one a little bit more. But just making others feel good, so you feel good about yourself for being thankful, being gracious, grateful, and then others feel better. Being thankful also makes you feel more confident, right? One of the things we want to do in real estate is exude, confidence. We want to be humbly confident and not pridefully arrogant, right? So let thankfulness translate to that confidence, which then is infectious for our clients because they want to be around people that are confident in what they're doing, especially if they're trying to help you make a home purchase, or sell a home. And as we talked about, just in general makes you a more positive person. And then interestingly, I found something that it makes you sleep better. And I didn't initially kind of understand why that would be, but then I realized reflecting back on what we do when we sleep. So from what I understand, the mind's always kind of going. We want to solve a problem. So if we try to go to bed, one of the reasons why most people don't fall asleep very easily is because the mind's racing. And then we're always, even in our sleep, are trying to come up with a solution. So if we're just, counting, our gratitudes or being thankful, that kind of backs off the problem solving side of our brain. That's how I chose to, or maybe it's just even kind of what our brain is, the state that it's in when we're sleeping. I got to imagine in a better state, we're going to sleep better. But anyway, I just thought those were all kind of interesting things. But today I just wanted to kind of set the stage. Oh, there was one other thing I came across that I think is relevant here. It's if you don't mind, it don't matter. So if you're thinking about positivity, being grateful, the other little things, they just don't matter as much. You know what I mean? But if you're dwelling on those, stewing on those, marinating in those, that's tough because they do matter, right? They're a big deal to you. So kind of, don't sweat the small stuff, whatever, saying, cliche that you want to, insert here, I think could be helpful. So anyway, today I just wanted to kind of, share that I think thankfulness, gratitude are a big part of our lives, small triumphs that we talked about, small victories the other day. So once the stage is set, we'll talk kind of going forward, what successes are we seeing in real estate from the small to the large, just kind of sharing those and moving, the group's kind of mental state forward. Carissa, you just jumped on. Do you have any comments or thoughts on being grateful, thankful throughout the day?
Not really, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
I'm thankful when a deal closes at the end of the day, but I got to get clients to be thankful for something. So
yeah. Well, I would just say, and next week I'll probably kind of give the same rating for each other to say, how thankful of a person do you feel like you are? Today I think we've talked about enough that we can appreciate that it's important. I think we're all on some end of the scale, 0 to 10, of being thankful people. And then, moving forward, I think we'll realize as we, improve that score, that our lives just get better by virtue of what our perspective is on life. And we just talked about the fact that having some rose-colored glasses sometimes isn't necessarily a bad thing. Again, don't get disconnected from reality, but, you create, things in your life, even if it's in a mental state of your mind. So anyway, we're at 10:01, 15 minutes. It's good seeing you guys.
All right. Thanks, Jared.
So,
Have a blessed one.